Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and welcome to everybody who's still joining us. I see slowly but surely the list is growing, which is fantastic. So thank you all very much for taking the time to spend with us on this community conversation today, where we will be celebrating women in community associations. I'd like to just extend a special welcome to Jessica Towles again, who is joining us at the session. She was joining us, or she did join us last year. She was the former and is currently the Vice President of Community Operations. So thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us. It is 6 a.m. there in Colorado, so thank you very much for getting up early to get dressed and ready for us. We're so pleased to have you with us. Then I'd just like to do some introductions, but before I kick off with that, a few notes. Should anyone have any questions, please feel free to post those questions in the comments or chat box. Then we'll also be sharing our social media links in the chat box for you to follow through. You're welcome to join, like, follow, all of the above, to keep informed of industry articles, news, suggestions, etc., as well as information as to when we'll be having these community conversations. We also do have a YouTube page where we are posting the recordings and videos of these community conversations, should you like to go back and just review them again. All right, so thanks again. It looks like the list is filled up. Right, I'd like to just introduce the panel today. So as I've mentioned before, we've got Jessica Towles. I've already mentioned her background. Célest van Niekerk, who's the chair of Cornwall Hill Estate. Lerato, Kgatle, estate manager of Zambezi Country Estate. And Leona, Hattingh, who's the estate manager of Newmark Estate. So welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for your time today. I'd like to kick off with the questions, but if we could possibly, I would like to give Jessica a few minutes just to introduce herself to the participants, and then we'll kick off with some questions and then zoom around back to Jessica, if that's okay. Jessica, if you can just give us just a background of who you are, where you're from. You're such an inspiration to the women in this industry. You're definitely an inspiration to me. So it's very special to be able to have some time with you today and speak to you today and hear from you. So if you could give me some background on where you're from, how you got to where you are, so that we know that those who are watching at least can aim for the same heights.
Absolutely. Thank you again for inviting me. It was so inspirational to speak with everyone and learn about the other participants last year, and I'm really excited to be participating again this year. As you mentioned, I am the current president of CAI International, the president of the board of trustees, and I also work for a local management company managing the managers who are overseeing communities like yours, large-scale gated communities, very similar to the main product that you have in South Africa. So I have been doing this for 22 years now, and I started as a receptionist and worked my way up through various roles. I was lucky enough to have two very strong independent aunts who both were in some phase of real estate or community management, who gave me inspiration to pursue this as a career. When I went to university, I studied building construction, contracting, and management, because in the 90s, there was no real coursework, and I didn't know what CAI was when I was fresh out of high school. And so I remember very distinctly one of my first classes at Purdue University. It was an introduction to construction course, and I was one of two women in a hall of 80 plus men. And one of the gentlemen looked at me and saw my nails done and said, "Oh, are you here to be our secretary?" And being a little sassy pants back in the day, I said, "No, I'm here to be your boss." And I had to put that kind of energy forward as much as I could, because as a young woman coming into our industry, even though coming out of college, I got my PCAM when I was 27, because I felt that as somebody in their early 20s, sitting with a board of mostly men over their 50s, some women, people who had been titans of their industry, lots of chiefs and not a lot of Indians doing the work. I needed to be able to show my knowledge and my expertise, and having those designations really helped show that, getting that education so that I could be confident in knowing what I was discussing was very important to me, because it is intimidating and difficult coming into a situation. As a woman, as a young woman, you're often dismissed. So having the knowledge and the background and being confident in what you're talking about really made a huge difference for me in my early career, and allowed me to excel and ask questions and move forward and work my way up from the receptionist to leading management companies.
That is a very amazing story, and it resonates so deeply with me, because I also started as a receptionist, and I was also quite pulled towards the building and construction side of things. So thank you very much, and I hope there's a lot more women who can relate to your story. But yes, thank you so much for that. If we can start kicking off with some of the questions, and we'll get back to you soon. Thanks, Jessica. All right, ladies, we'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to kick off with a couple of names and ask some questions. Lerato, I'm quite interested to hear from you as to how you got involved in the community management industry.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story. I can relate to Jessica's story. I started off in the legal industry, unlike Jessica, who started in the community management. So from my very first job, I worked at a law firm. I moved to marketing and events management, but my background in terms of studies, I studied business management. So luckily for me, when I got this opportunity in 2018 to be the estate manager, I had the qualification of managing a business, though I didn't have experience in community management. But I believe that working from the construction to the legal to events and marketing and all that, dealing with clients, and it really prepared me for this position, because as you know, we have to wear different hats.
I think that's where, yes, I think that's where we as women are very fortunate, because we know how to do that very well. Yes, okay, well, thank you. I'd like to find out from Leona. Leona, you as well. I mean, how did you get into the community association management industry?
Actually, all my life, I've been in finance my whole life, and I've applied for the financial administration position in 2016.
Okay.
A year and a half later, our estate manager was headhunted by our neighbours, obviously for a few pounds more. And I also applied for the position. I had no experience, but I know he didn't have any financial experience. So maybe he knew more about building sites, but he didn't know zero about a system or finance, which I feel, it's still fair, take a chance. I want to grow. I love a challenge. Even without not having everything that they required, I said, I'm willing to learn. I didn't take over from him. I wasn't warned. I've also applied like all the other applicants. It was just one vote on my side. I was through in the deep side, the only person in the office at that moment. So there's no finance, no estate manager. I did everything for 3 months, kept everything straight up still. And I eventually got the position a year and a half later, after I started as a financial administrator, and I'm here now for 7 years. And I need to grow more and more and more and more. So yes, and I love learning every day.
That's the key word, though. It resonates with us as we're willing to learn more. And I think a lot of women share the sentiment. You know, we are always willing to learn more. It's that challenge. We've got to keep fighting to get ahead. So good on you, ladies. Céleste, I see you're the chair of Cornwall Hill Estate. Can you maybe give us some insight as to your experience? Obviously, you're on the board of directors and not in the management team. Well, you are considered the management team, but you know, you're obviously on a higher level as the chair. So can you maybe give us some insight as to what your daily tasks and your responsibilities involved and how you got involved in community association management?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So I've been living in Cornwall for more than 20 years. And when we moved in there, I was a very busy executive, and I said, you know, I'm not going to get involved. And I always get involved everywhere I go. So it was a first for me to say, you know, hands off. I'm not going to get involved at all. And I said to my husband, after he attended the first AGM, I said, if we don't participate and we don't help, we don't complain. So we live here and we go to work and we come back, and you know, we're very happy with where we're at. But COVID changed that for me, and I think one of the big good things that came out of COVID for myself was the fact that I actually then got involved, because I saw what was going on. And at that stage, I saw that we have a very dedicated team of security officers in our estate, and they agreed to actually stay with us for that initial 3 weeks into COVID and not go home at all, because of the, you know, the spread. And we were very frantic, you know, that there would be people being infected by being on public transport and so on. So they stayed. And I, because I always wear a charity hat, my other involvement is as the chairperson of Child Welfare Tshwane. And because of that charity hat, I said, well, we need to look after our guards. And I took responsibility in our estate for those initial 3 and later 8 weeks, and looked after them on a daily basis, 3 meals a day, looked after them in terms of where they stayed and how they stayed, and how they were treated in that time. And, you know, without a doubt, the chairperson then reached out to me at the time and said, would you not like to then, you know, join the board? And I said, well, I've now put up my hand half, so I can just as well, you know, take this opportunity and get involved. So for me, it was more a COVID induced position. And I've been there now for over 2 years. I've enjoyed myself thoroughly. So it was sort of, I don't believe in accidents. I think it was fate that brought me to the as the chairperson of that. I wasn't initially the chairperson. I was head marketing and comms, which is something I love and something I worked in as an executive for a very long time in the insurance industry. And then at last year's AGM, after the AGM, I was selected by the board as the chair. I want to just add that one of the wonderful things of my particular situation and my board is that we're a member of six board members, and 4 of us are women. So I want to tell you, things are happening in Cornwall.
Viva women.
Awesome.
Yes. Jessica, on your side, I mean, do you find that in America now, specifically, obviously with CAI, that there are a lot more women in these types of positions? I mean, obviously in South Africa, it's still quite a male-driven industry, but I'd like to understand from your perspective, from what you know.
In America, in the US, we have the benefit of our industry here is primarily women. Men are in the minority when it comes to community association management. It was an industry that suited mothers, stay-at-home moms, especially in the portfolio world where they were managing 5, 8, 10 properties. They were able to do things while their kids were at school, stop for a while, take care of the kids when they came home, and then go to a board meeting in the evening. So it really suited well for that. We tended to see more men in the larger on-site communities or high-rise communities, just because of the 8 to 6 hours and having to be there more consistently, but that also has been changing significantly over the past few years.
That's very interesting. That is very, very interesting. And I never thought about it that way, but it kind of resonates for the series that I'm thinking of. I just can't think of the name right now. But I mean, it's extremely interesting to think that it suited women's needs and daily, you know, comes and goings to say, well, my kids are at school now, I can manage so many properties, and when they come back, I can take some time off from family time, and then later this evening, I can quickly pop into a meeting. It's very interesting indeed. Well, thanks for that. All right, ladies, the next question is, I'm going to focus a little bit on how, in your experience over the last couple of years, whether it be in this specific industry or just you as a woman in what you've been doing, did you feel that you needed to work harder to achieve your goals or professional growth for that matter? And was there any discrimination in the workplace? Very interested to understand, because, you know, from my experience, my story is very similar to Jessica's. I started as a receptionist. Now I'm a very determined individual. So I was always challenging the men above me. I mean, Johan can speak quite well to that. I was always challenging the men on knowing better and knowing more, you know. So discriminate as much as you like, boys. I'm going to prove you wrong, you know. Don't shake your head, you know it's true. So yeah, ladies, if you can give us some insight as to what your experience has been and how you've been able to overcome these challenges as a woman, not just in this industry, but just as a woman. So Lerato, I'd like to kick off with you, please. I mean, if you can give us some insight.
Thank you. I would say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, like you say, the challenges that comes with being a woman, your capabilities are questioned, blah, blah, and all that. But I would like to say no, in the sense that I think in our industry, more especially, when you get a frustrated resident, for example, coming to the office, they want to know that you can actually understand or you know, be empathetic or compassionate and things like that. They want to know that you can relate to their problems. So being a woman and being a mother sometimes works in our benefit, in the sense that they don't see you as that muscular, you know, I'm here to emphasize the rules, to enforce. They tend to appreciate the fact that you're able to sit and communicate and listen and understand and empathize. You know, even when you apply a penalty, I can talk to you in a way that you understand that I enforce the rule, and unfortunately I have to give you a penalty. So by the time you leave my office, you understand that I have to, because it's my job. But at the same time, you are not happy because you're getting a penalty, but we're not, you know, fighting and wrestling around. So I think in a way it works for us. That I always say, as women, sometimes our weakness can actually be our strength, because the same things that makes you weak as to your male counterpart can actually work in your favor, you know.
Exactly. Just a key thing there. People just want to be heard. You know, so
exactly.
They may rant into your office with some or other long story, but you know what? After listening to them, they kind of it.
Exactly. And you know what? People don't want to. I think people don't want to feel like the estate manager is some sheriff in town that is there to make their lives difficult. They want to see somebody that understand their needs, somebody that is there to care for their investment and things like that. And that woman touch, you know?
You're spot on with that female touch, my dear.
Exactly.
All right. Celeste, can you maybe give us some insight of what your challenges have been, what you've been able to overcome over the years?
Yeah, so my history is obviously very different from the other speakers, but I started my career in the trade union business, which in itself was very interesting. And I joined the trade union industry, and specifically the police union when I was 20 years old. So it was very challenging. I think the barriers to entry for women in general is it's a lot. There's a lot to deal with, especially if you're a young woman, and men are normally not threatened by you. And I think I want to agree with Lerato, because we normally surprise them, you know, so they think, oh, she's another girlie, she actually knows nothing. And especially if you're in a police environment, you know, you called all sorts of little names, you know, you Missy and Bokkie and Sweetie and whatever else. They tend to talk to you like that. But I think standing your ground, doing what you need to do, focusing on the job at hand, definitely makes gives us that surprise element of being able to do a lot. My early years were my best years in terms of exposure. If you are just listening and you're learning from whatever you're exposed to, because when we get into any job, whether you're a receptionist, I was the head of administration at the time, later the head of finance, and then later became the Secretary General of the union, which meant I had to do presentations to the portfolio committee in Parliament. So it gave me that opportunity to actually to learn. And I think we are sponges as women, because we are always multitasking. We are always having, wearing those different caps or hats that you spoke about earlier. So we are in an excellent position to actually take those challenges and turn it into opportunities. So from my side, yes, many, many barriers, many challenges, many times that you had to stand your ground and definitely make your point to be heard. People, as you said earlier, want to be heard. We also want to be heard as women in this industry and in many other industries. And we want to actually break that, that so-called glass ceiling, because we actually know that we have a lot to give. So for me, as a young woman, most definitely learned a lot, learned the tricks of the trade and how to actually make yourself heard. And I think that we continue to do that, to be faced with these challenges all the time. But we need to just see this as opportunities, really, and try to turn them into opportunities for ourselves and for the communities we serve. So, yeah.
That's some fantastic words. Thank you. I mean, it is true. We're very good at multitasking. So something great that came from our history, we're so used to managing families and children and tasks at home and all these things going on. I think that's where we've been able to learn how to do all these things at the same time, and also manage a variety of challenges and personalities all at once. I mean, that's the thing about community association management. Every single day has got something new coming ahead that you didn't expect this yesterday, but we know how to handle it calmly. And we take it forward, and we get it sorted as soon as possible. There was somebody in the industry who'd actually said that women make the best estate managers, and that must have been the best thing that man ever said. So I will definitely compliment him on it one day. But anyhow, Leona, over to you. Is there anything that you can give us, maybe some insight from any challenges that you may have experienced in your professional growth?
In general, I don't think Lerato mentioned that we have to be heard. I've learned not to be heard, but the proof is in the pudding. And then, you know what, if you challenge me, just give that extra mile. The proof is in the pudding, sorry. You don't want to waste your energy. You're going to override it. You're going to go bigger, Their mouths are closed. They've got no words. That's just the way to approach every challenge in any way. Yeah. For example, a very, very good example, just this weekend, we have a clubhouse that only allows 50 people for capacities due to facilities. But there were politicians involved in memory of loss in the family. And because the person stayed in our estate, they wanted to use the facility. So needless to say, Monday evening, I'm still 8 o'clock here at work, because this lady walked out and said, I don't care what you do, there will be 250 people here tomorrow. And that was yesterday. That was my Women's Day. Okay. So I was writing letters and notices to the Holy State, informing them and respecting, appreciate, and preaching to the security. And we did the logistics the evening before, fixed it up. Do you know what was the outcome? I had an anonymous call today from someone that's actually been to the memorial service yesterday on the holiday, which we don't even actually allow, overriding our own rules, but out of respect and politicians. They wanted to find out who is our landscapers. I said, no, it's inside. Our ladies in the office do it. Oh, where do you get your plants from? Oh, we don't buy them. We make them. We got them free from God. So I must say, for me, that's my way of ending things. I just, that extra mile, always. Well, that's a secret.
Good on you and your team. Hey, wow, well done. All right, next thing, guys, we'd like to hear about your achievements, best achievements in your lifetime, or at least in your work life. Jessica, I'm sure you've got a couple of achievements under the belt that you can proudly say you can look back on.
My proudest achievements are honestly being able to be a member of the faculty for CAI, and I only teach the M100 course, so that's the Introduction to Community Management. My proudest moments have really happened in these past few years. I've been teaching now for 12 years, but these past 2 conferences, I've seen more of the students that I taught that first class to walk the stage and get their PCAM designation, that Professional Community Association Manager designation, and seeing how far those people have come and how excited they are to continue in what they do, that it still gives me goosebumps to see how what little things that we can do in our industry can inspire others to reach for more and to do more. That just fills my heart with joy and makes it easier to deal with some of those difficult situations, like what Leona was just saying.
Well, thanks to you, you and Johan. I mean, I don't know all the faculty team members, but you guys really do amazing things in pulling us all through this educational structure. It's not easy. It's challenging at its best sometimes, but whoever hasn't done it, guys, you must please do it. I mean, when I started with my studies, my M100 in 2014, and I finally got my PCAM in 2020, January of 2020, just before COVID hit. That was my biggest achievement. I've been working at it for 7 or 8 years, and finally I got the opportunity, even if I did in Dubai, a country I didn't understand, laws I was not familiar with, and I sat for hours for a month, and I was so pleased with myself after submitting that case study and receiving the news back. I think it was a month or odd later that I passed. That was the best thing ever. So thank you to the faculty members for taking all of us through this training. We definitely work hard at getting what we want to, but we wouldn't have been able to do it without people like you. So thank you for that.
That actually makes me all misty-eyed. Congratulations on getting that. That's so hard to take it in a completely different country. Oh my gosh.
You know what? I think it's great. And I think that you guys really do such a great job. So thank you. Really, you deserve it. Yuan, yes, well done to you too. All right, Leona, is there anything that you can maybe, what is one of your best achievements?
I must say, for me, joining the faculty, that I only did the M100 this year. For me, that was a step up, because I never even realized or known of the existence, of the company until I started to shop around for different vacancies. It's all about the dollars and everything. And I know my worth. So that's for me a challenge, but I must say, the table has turned. We've got psychology where we can actually, dominate our board of directors. If I look back and I tick the list, I can see I've turned the table. It took time, but we've invested. We still have an opportunity to recruit the right people you can, to make sure you covered everything, positive input, open-minded people, because you need more than 3 heads are always better than 1 for me. So I think for me personally, achievement is changing my board of directors, getting rid of the wrong ones and getting the right ones in without them even realizing it.
Well, good on
Sorry.
you. Good on you. Well done.
I'm
well
just having results.
Well done. Celeste, what is your biggest achievement?
Well, not having been in the industry for so long, I think for me, the last 6 to 7 months in our estate was really a highlight for me. And it's not about a personal achievement, but more about my team's achievement. We've really worked very, very hard For me, two key issues is communication and corporate governance. Those are two very, very important issues for me personally. Wherever I am at board level, I like to look at those issues as critical to the success of that particular board. So communication is obviously always key. I think we underestimate the role of communication in any organization, and specifically in community organizations, where you need to be on top of things and you need to be proactive. And I think a lot of us are very reactive in terms of how we talk to our communities and so on. And I like what Lerato said, that soft touch in terms of the approach, because it's all about approach and attitude. And we need to be kind to our residents. I mean, they are the reason that we exist as organizations and as associations, but also we need to be firm enough to implement, the rules, and to, if it's necessary, as Lerato said, send them away with a fine that they smile about and understand and agree that it was necessary to do. But for me, having been able to, over the last 6 to 7 months, do an entire audit on everything in our organization in terms of policies and procedures, to finalize our strategic plan for the next 3 years, and to really do a total overhaul of those policies and procedures in terms of either establishing them or updating them where necessary, was for me a personal achievement of our board. And I'm looking forward to going to the AGM later this year to report on the work that the board has actually done. The second thing, what is important to me is community. We tend to be us and them. And as a board member, I now understand the context. Sometimes I used to sit and I wonder why did they make that rule? Or why do we only have to drive 30 kilometers an hour in this estate? Why? And now understanding context, having the privilege to be a part of the decision and part of the discussion and the debate, I really try to talk to more people in the estate and to get more people to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and inviting them to become involved. So my big issue in my bi-monthly little piece that I write for our magazine, I invite our community to become more involved. It doesn't need to be on board level. Board level takes a tremendous amount of time and effort from you as an individual, but in any way, whether it's an event, whether it's at a committee level, or just make recommendations or give us ideas as to what to do. So for me, those are my two biggest achievements: to get the community involved and just to really look after our governance and communication of the board.
That's fantastic. I completely agree that communication is one of the most important aspects of an HA. If you communicate, or a community association, if you communicate effectively, you'll find that people are more receptive. And their approach is also a lot less aggressive. So good on you with that. Lerato? The biggest achievement? Yeah.
I can fully relate to what Céleste is saying. My biggest achievement personally would be to the CAISA courses that I've undertaken. I've done M100, M202, M203. But my biggest achievement is when I started working here, there was a lot of issues between the directors and the residents, and on 2 occasions, the AGM was disrupted and there was a big fight. There was a consent group and whatnot. So I can pride myself in saying that I've managed to restore calm. And how I managed to do that was communication, as Céleste was saying. There were no policies, like procurement policy for one, and residents were concerned how services were being procured and who gets what tender, why are they getting it, and good communication and good governance and putting policies in place has actually restored calm. And part of our policies that we involve residents to be, when we do the bid evaluations, we involve residents to come and be part of the panel as independent observers. And when we finalize the procuring that service or the tender process, we communicate with the residents. We say that this is who was involved, this is the scoring criteria, this is the bid that were received, and this is the successful bidder. That has really gone a long way in restoring calm. So I can say that from when I started to now, I can actually pride myself in saying that there is some calmness. There'll always be complainers, there'll always be issues. That is part of why we're here to solve those issues. But the biggest thing is that the biggest tension when I started working here between the board, them and us, residents there, board there, and not understanding how the HOA operates and say that has been settled.
Well done. You know, achieving calm is a difficult thing to do, especially when you're coming into something that's already disrupted. So exactly. I don't want to leave only on calm. I think that you've also instilled a sense of trust, which is I think what supports the calmness. So they obviously trust you, and you've been able to show them that you are valuable to that community association or that estate as the manager. And they can trust whatever you say. And obviously that is repaired, in my opinion, repaired the relationship between the community and the board. So well done, well done.
Thank you.
All right, great. I've actually taken a couple of words out of this entire session and put a bit of a thought process together of what my message to women in community associations would be. So I'm very impressed with myself. But I'd like to kind of close off. We're at about 25 to 3. We normally give the last 10 to 15 minutes to the participants as questions. If you do have any questions, I'd just like to remind all of you, more than welcome to post them in the chat box. I see there's some comments here just before we close off. Karen McLean said, women dominate, but are still not respected as much. Karen, I do agree with you there. You know, for us to, and I don't know if anybody else got an opinion on this, you're more than welcome to put up your hand. You know, getting respect, especially in our political atmosphere in this country, it's a different culture. You know, so respect is normally we have to earn it. It's not automatic. But you've got a valid point. And I see Hayla has said, I've noticed that female leadership techniques work well in our industry, both working with community members and staff. That's a very valuable point. Thank you, Hayla. Cedar Lakes. Oh, shame. No problem, my dear. Thanks for joining us late. She just apologized for joining us late. And then Johan seemed to think that, you know, women are always minute takers. That's a valid point. You know, that's the feeling we get here in this country. And it is easier for men. Oh, and it's Cassie. Thanks, Cassie. All right, great. I'd just like to close off the discussion if there's no other questions as to what the 4 panelists, or including myself, what advice or message we'd like to give to the women in our industry, whether it be a motivational message, whether it be good advice. I'd like to kick off with Jessica, or maybe Jessica, I'll leave you for last. Lerato, if you've got some advice for anybody in the industry from your experience, how can you motivate the other women out there?
Thank you. My message to the ladies there is that you can do it. Believe in yourself. What I said about your weakness actually being your strength, take that. If anything from what I said, take that. What you think, where you think you are lacking, work on that. You will be surprised as to how much, if you put your mind in it, how much you can actually achieve. Yeah, that's my message to all the ladies.
Great, thanks, Lerato. Celeste?
From my side, basically 5 things. One is to prepare properly. I think that's something we do as women quite well, and I think that's why we're also very successful. So the first thing will be to prepare properly. The second one comes automatically, work hard. I think we do work hard at what we want and want to achieve. And something that my gran taught me is to network. She always used to say, it's not what you know, it's who you know that's important. In our industry, I think that's exceptionally important. But I found in my own life, you know, everywhere I go, networking is a very handy tool for you to use, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether, you know, wherever you're involved in. And then get involved. For me, getting involved is very important, in whatever way you can, in whatever way you want to. I think it's a negotiation with yourself as to what extent that you would like to be involved in. And the last thing that I want to say is show up. I think we need to, as women, just show up. We have so much to give, and that is my message to women, to show up and give what you have to give to either your community, and we do that at home, and we do that at work, we do that everywhere we go. So those 5 things from my side. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Celeste. Leona?
Yeah, I think I already mentioned it. I said always go the extra mile, go and surprise them, something unexpected. On the other side, one thing that I do promote inside, because we all get this neighbor coming to you with a challenge of a tree or this or that. Will you please ask talk to my neighbors? I say, sorry, sir. We promote neighborly relations. Please go by go do that. If you're not winning, then you can come to me. So I don't respond on the first time on their request. I challenge them first because I'm trying to teach them the relations, neighborly relations. It's at the end of the day going to take a lot off your shoulders. We don't want to be the army. We all said it. We don't want to be that. Build relations.
Good approach. Well done. Great. Thanks so much, Leona. And over to you, Jessica, before I close off everybody, any last words from your side?
I would love to echo all of the sentiments by the other made by the other panelists. Lerato, making sure that you know that your weaknesses are really your strengths, and from Leona, going the extra mile and doing what you can. I love your list, Celeste. I love it. And preparing, networking, specifically on the networking piece, as women, at least in the United States, we're often told we're too loud, or as little girls growing up, you're bossy or you're excitable. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be the wallflower standing in the back trying to quiet yourself. Network, talk to people. Be afraid, but do it anyway. Make sure that we are reaching back and grabbing the hands of other women and the people struggling around us to help lift them up. And be sure that we support each other. Probably the greatest criticisms I've gotten haven't been from men in our industry or on boards. It's been from other women who are catty or afraid of having somebody surpass them. Support each other and make sure that we are here as a unified front to be able to lift each other up, because that's the only way we're going to get further and break that glass ceiling, is by lifting everyone up. And we have a harder time at that as women. So I feel that that's really important for us all to support one another.
Great. Thank you very much to all of the panelists. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you to everybody who attended today's session. As always, we are proud as women in a community association leading our communities. As I said earlier, just to leave off for the last thing, I went through everybody's words, just took those key words out of what was said today, and this is what I put together. With the right approach and a positive attitude, we can proactively manage a successful community that is united in a supportive, collective, and correct approach. So well done to all you ladies out there. Keep pushing forward, keep aiming sky high, sky's the limit. We are going to prove to everyone that we are able to lead our communities with pride. Thank you very much, guys. If there's nothing else, you must all have a fantastic, fantastic day. Happy Women's Month. Hope you enjoy the rest of every day of the rest of the month.